Yes, yeah, it's recording now.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Indo Pak Webinar series. My name is Makia Javed, and I shall be your host for the day. Before I deep dive into any of the details, thank you so much for joining us today, and we're really excited to be doing this, and we're really happy that you're here with us. Just a quick comment before I go into more details. As per the rules of this series, the attendees will not be able to talk initially, but you can definitely leave your comments and your queries in the Q&A session and in the chat session. So yes, let's go about it. So just a little about myself. I think I'm one of the privileged ones who can work from home and I can continue my daily activities as a public health consultant for the Fleming Fund and a director at Sehat Kahani. But unfortunately, I don't think that's the case for millions of individuals around us and in South Asia. So it's really interesting for me as a person to know that, I was just researching a little. And in the last 500 years, we have had 15 flu pandemics, but only the Spanish flu killed more than 3 million people. And it just makes me wonder, what will be the final stats when COVID finally ends and we are free of this isolation that we are dealing with right now? So without further ado, let us introduce the panelists for the day. And I would love to hear from them. So Ms. Sanjana from Bangalore Hub, Mr. Sikandar from Karachi Hub, and Ms. Shivi from the Delhi Hub. Over to the panelists for a quick round of introductions.
Yeah, let me begin. So I am Sanjana. I'm a legal professional and I work for a private company here. So I have experience in environmental law, civil, criminal, property-related matters, and a bit of human rights as well. So with the Bangalore Hub, it's been 3 years now, and I head the environment and climate action projects. And I'm also a trained climate reality leader. I got trained in LA by Al Gore in 2018. That's about me. Sikandar, would you like to introduce? We can't hear you.
Sorry, you can see I'm already getting towards more techy now with Zoom and everything, the disruption. Okay, thank you, Makia. Thank you, Sanjana. My name is Sikandar Bisanjo. I'm the incoming curator of Karachi Hub. I used to be part of Islamabad Hub, but I had moved in Karachi for last 8 months. I have been in the development sector here for past 4 years. I have worked with the education sector. I've worked with the federal government of Pakistan on various development projects. Currently, I'm working on youth entrepreneurship with a focus on gender equality. I'm working towards with the youth who are from disadvantaged urban backgrounds. We're training them how to expand their businesses, what are the challenges that they can potentially face, how to use digital media to be prepared for the post-industrial revolution. Over to you, Shivi.
Hi everyone, I'm Shivi. I work with American Express as a data scientist and strategy planner in credit and fraud risk division. In this role, I drive data-driven recommendations and I highlight risk, trends, and opportunities for growth, for risk, to prevent frauds, etc. I'm also the co-founder of Cephet that provides a platform to purpose-driven organizations to seek mentorship from industry experts, find volunteers, and at the same time allow people and professionals to get a deeper understanding of the social impact sector. I'm associated with New Delhi Hub for last 1 year, and it's been a fantastic journey with global shaper community. Personally, I always look for ways where I can solve data-driven problems and grapple with data-driven solutions with the world's most pressing challenges. So very excited to share my insights for today's session.
Thank you so much, all of you, for introducing yourselves. I just got a quick question from one of the panelists. So Hardik, we will not be tuning on the mics for all of the attendees, but you can leave your question into the chat box or in the Q&A session, and we will get back to it as soon as we can. So let's just jump into the questions for the day and let's just discuss the theme of COVID really. So the first question that I have for all of you is, why and how are we so vulnerable? I mean, when I introspect into the very nature of our social economic models, the fulcrums of disaster, I can't understand how to perceive the situation. Is it very negative? Is it something that's manageable? how do you perceive it really? Why are we so vulnerable? So over to you, panelists.
I think particularly with this issue, I think the world was moving at such a fast-paced rate that we almost forgot to give enough attention to a lot of issues that needed to be taken care of. And primarily, I think we lacked global cooperation. That would be the primary aspect for me. And then we didn't deal a lot better with healthcare, poverty, sanitation, environmental issues and stuff. And these have resulted in a lot of increase in vulnerability for us, right? And these have happened on various fronts, social, economical, and as well as environmental. So we used to we are so used to thinking of healthcare from national term, right? So we only think of how are we doing at local levels, how are we doing at regional levels and all that. But did we ever think that having better healthcare facilities in China or Iran would save a lot of lives in the US and Europe? Did we ever think so comprehensively? So I think that is what we lacked. And to think of it from another very important factor is that we never foresaw, we never thought in long terms about the environmental degradation and its implications on us. So most of the laws do not address human wildlife conflict. So that was something which was not taken care of. And these sort of trickle down into the kind of vulnerability we are in today. So when does a disaster happen? When vulnerability meets hazard, right? And what is vulnerability? Vulnerability is the susceptibility and resilience, two aspects of it. Susceptibility is being exposed to it. How much are we exposed to a crisis as human beings? And resilience is our ability to adapt and recover from that. So I think lack of global cooperation, neglect of environmental degradation, and largely inequality in the society, and just being growth oriented, economic oriented, but not in the right sense, is what led us to being so vulnerable. This is what I feel.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Sanjana. I believe that as humans, we are vulnerable in our nature as well. We can only be prepared if we foresee something, but unfortunately for such pandemics, it takes us a while, months to figure out the genesis of a virus or an infection, how it originated, let alone finding the cure and being prepared for it. For instance, humans, obviously we try our best that how we go forward. For instance, if we take example from Japan, they get a lot of earthquakes. So they have tried to make their houses slightly earthquake proof that they do not get a lot of damage. Similarly, but when it comes to such pandemics, I agree with Sanjana that there is definitely a paucity of global cooperation. Just look at South Asia. Sorry, that's our light in Pakistan. Let me turn off my video, but I think you can still hear me, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, so lack of global cooperation for sure. If you just look at South Asia, for instance, there has been a lot of debate in Pakistan lately how much funds we should allocate in the SARC. So we've recently put $3 billion from Pakistan's end, but that too after so much of debate. There shouldn't have been a debate about it at all, because this is not just Pakistan's problem or India's problem. This is a global pandemic and it needs global solutions as well. So I think the lack of cooperation and our own very nature of being vulnerable makes humankind vulnerable.
All right. So, Shivi, your thoughts, please, on what Sanjana and Sikandar just shared.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Sanjana and Sikandar, for sharing your insights. I see COVID-19 pandemic as a prime example of a black swan event. This was a term that was coined by writer Nazim Nicholas Taleb to describe very high impact events that are unimaginable before they happen. But looking back, I see that COVID-19 pandemic should really not be a black swan event, because hundreds of health experts have written books, white papers, OPADs, giving warning for decades for a pending pandemic. In the current situation, I would say hypothesis became reality. What if became now what? So that's the only difference, that we did not take enough actions in time, and the result that we are facing today. Moving to the next, thoughts around it, I would say COVID pandemic has left us to, realize that the greater importance for countries to invest in the healthcare system and how important it is to drive the entire economy. So that is something. Another thing that I see is we totally lacked, preparedness, and that's so clear. We all do mock drills for evacuating workplaces if earthquake triggers, if there's a fire disaster, but we never planned for a pandemic. So there's a need to test and revise our emergency response plans to improve multi-sector coordination. There's a need to harmonize national and international pandemic response. CPIS, this is an organization which was launched in 2017 to collect donations from private, public organizations, civil society organizations, to fund research in vaccines for emerging infection diseases. So this is an example of a great initiative, and more such initiatives at global scale should be taken. And when we talk about investment in health sector, I would say that this is required not just to ensure adequate health infrastructure for public, but it has the potential to create both high level and low level jobs in health sectors. So we can actually pump prime our service and manufacturing sectors too by investing in health sector, and it can really become the engine of our GDP growth. So moving ahead, I would say we were vulnerable because we did not invest enough in our health sector. Our leaders, be it business leaders, politicians, they did not see pandemic, or they did not foresee any such situation earlier. And that's the reason they prioritized other things over health. So scenario analysis and its underlying principles can definitely play a role here to prepare for such highly disruptive events. Over to you, Makya.
Thank you so much, Shivi, and thank you all of you. You've really put that all out there. When we talk about the pandemic, then all of these things come into play: the global cooperation, healthcare, financials, climate change, and as you rightly put it, Shivi, when we talk about it as a black swan event, then my next question would be really around this entire concept. That Sanjana, and I think you might want to answer this one. That we know viruses will evolve and they'll keep on coming back into the picture. I mean, it's never going to end, really. So do you think that our plans and our growth approaches are really cognizant of the challenges that nature throws at us? Are we really prepared for them in any way, or are we completely in the blind right now?
I think that's a very important question, Makia. Thank you for that. And I think now is the time when we all need to take a step back as individuals, as businesses, as political leaders, and evaluate our choices, right? And if you look at it, environmental or ecosystem services are something which underline human health and development. That is very clear right now. And if we look at, so we've had pandemics, we've had diseases, epidemic outbreaks previously as well, like smallpox, Ebola, or Black Death, and a lot of them. But then back then we didn't have enough scientific evidence, or we didn't have the technologies which we have right now, right? Right now we have this required scientific advancement, but what we lack is the wisdom to use it. Now is the time when really leaders need to believe in science and facts, and then help the citizens also believe in that. Unless and until the leaders don't do that, that's going to be very difficult. So we know that almost 75% of the zoonotic diseases and the viruses which come to us from animals are from wild animals which have kind of adapted to urbanized spaces. So it could be rodents, it could be bats, it could be primates. All of these have been adapting, and one of the shocking facts is that one of the recent studies by Proceedings of Royal Society B has put forward that the animals which are most endangered and like threatened are the ones which are majorly causing this spillover effect of carrying the diseases from animals to humans. And why is this happening? We should really think about this. One is habitat loss and environmental degradation. So these animals have nowhere to go, so the whole of their system is changed as to where they live, how they're going to live, and who's going to eat them. That is changed. Another very important aspect is rapid urbanization. So we've as people have been moving into urban spaces, say around right now I think around 55% of the global population lives in cities, compared to 30% 50 years back. Now it's 55%. And what is this resulting in? This is resulting in a lot of animals losing their habitat and them getting adapted to living around farms and houses. And also they're constantly in human interaction, and this is becoming the melting pot of diseases. And it's proven that they survive more in urban spaces because of being able to get adapted to the food chain there. They can eat from the leftovers which human leave behind. They can adapt and live well in parks and other spaces. So this is something which is happening, and this is the primary cause. Okay. And if it's very easy for us to draw parallels right now and see that if we are not able to adapt to a pandemic like this, there could be a lot of other effects and impact of climate change, like droughts, um, uh, mm, melting of glaciers and permafrost. Again, a lot of viruses are being released there, which we don't know what effect it will have on humans. And a lot of things like these, the effects of climate change, which we clearly are not seeing because they are happening in small amounts. But then when we look at a collective magnitude of that going forward, will be too late. So now is the time when we need to start adapting to it. And then when we bring back the economy, when we are going to build back our systems, we need to make sure that we have a lot more greener jobs. We need to make sure that we shift to low carbon emission energy systems, and also look at sustainable development. While growth is really, really important, urbanization is important. Especially for developing countries like India and Pakistan, it's also very important for us to see what effect it is going to have on us. I think our growth and our plans going forward should inculcate all of these. Otherwise, we are currently seeing as to how acting once we are into the crisis is going to work. So it's better we be prepared, we learn from now.
Thank you so much, Sanjana, for sharing those thoughts. And I just listening to you, I was just thinking, so you spoke about climate change, you spoke about how natural habitats have changed. And I'm just thinking, what's the economic effect of it all? So, Shili, I'd really like to understand from you, that, when we talk about the trickle up effect of the financial crunch, and, it all started with daily wage earners, and right now we're hearing big companies shutting down or layoffs happening. Then, given what Sanjana shared about habitats changing, how do you perceive businesses or economics or the country's overall structure changing in terms of all the financial aspects?
I would say, Makhya, since the onset of crisis, the workers in unorganized sector were the most vulnerable to get impacted. That was like very clear from day one. MSMEs were the next segment to take a hit. And when we think of some industries, aviation, tourism, hospitality, they were the first ones to feel the shockwave. But now even white collar jobs in technology and other services are already facing the heat. Since economic activity is completely stalled, I would say, there is substantial pressure on corporate earnings as well. So most companies will face cash flow issues in the coming months, and employee salaries and wages constitute a major input in the fixed cost. So layoffs are expected to happen in downturn for cost optimizations. And I would say layoffs, unfortunately, in larger chunks are expected. A lot of companies have already started resigning offers to the new joinees, to fresh graduates. So these are challenging times, but I see it like okay, if a business is forced to shut down entirely in such a situation, it could be inevitable that you need to lay off your entire staff. However, if businesses are able to continue operating, but simply need to scale back, it might be wiser to design a on or furlough plans. So how it can work is, instead of asking your employees to go on an unpaid leave for next 3 months, it could go like, you can ask one employee to go on a 1 week unpaid leave and so on with alternate employees. And this can continue for 6 months. So the cost would be the same for a particular company, but it would definitely lessen the financial burden on employees and sustain their morale. So together as a community, we need to think of innovative ways. This situation is unprecedented. None of our previous generations, our parents, grandparents, have witnessed such a situation ever. So this is the time that we as a generation come up with innovative ways to keep everyone together, to make all of our lives easier, come out of the situation in the best ways possible. And it can't be emphasized enough that the current pandemic is neither simply a crisis of supply or demand. It's definitely more than that. So the stimulus or reform packages that are coming from government, they need to be tailored to not only spur demand at the right moment, but it is like to avoid a complete breakdown of economy and of our systems. So that's the depth of and gravity of the situation that we're all dealing with. Central banks' moratoriums will provide some relief to businesses to postpone their debt repayments, their installments or EMIs, etc. Similarly, the government is largely expected to give tax concessions to boost a bit of our businesses' confidence. And these relief packages should not be restricted to only smaller industries, cottage industries, or to people for limited to food supply, but they have to be extended. And unfortunately, the situation is such that they need to be extended to self-employed people, to the entire chunk of population. And we all need to come together to cope up with it, to come out of it.
Very interesting thoughts, Shri. And I'm just thinking that yes, we all need to think in a new light. So given that very thing in mind, Sikandar, I'd really like to understand from your perspective that developing countries like Pakistan and India, we have our fiscal positions are not really that strong. We have very similar challenges in terms of layoffs, in terms of our overall structure, societal structure. So how can the government best address these issues that we're facing at the moment?
That's a very interesting question, Makia. Not just our economic and fiscal position, even our political system is not that strong to be on a single page. For instance, if you looked at India, they took a very swift decision of a lockdown. The BJP government took a decision that India would be locked down today. But for here in Pakistan, we took a while to even decide. Like, still we are not in a complete national lockdown. But there is not to be that what is right and what is wrong here. There were problems in India as well. A lot of the daily wage earners, for instance, in big cities like Bangalore and New Delhi, they had to go back to their villages, and they again created a chaos. Similarly, in Pakistan, they were trying to get a plan, but within that time duration of getting a plan, we were backtracked and we did not realize the overall calamity of the situation. Definitely the fiscal position plays a key role in deciding what to do and what not to do. But if you look at it in pure economical terms, even the economists and the researchers are in the opinion that the economy comes later. We can revive our economy, but at this point in time, we have to save lives. But again, we cannot differentiate between economy as pure economic ways and the general lives, because they both are codependent on each other. If people have nothing to eat, if the economy is so stuck, halted, obviously it will affect human lives as well. In Pakistan, let me give you an example. The government has put aside $6 billion as economic rescue package. And that rescue package would not be used for getting more investments from abroad, but that rescue package would be used for instance, on subsidies, on flour, on other essential items. So the poorest of the poor, the downtrodden should not bear the burnt of these things. If I give you an example from my own hometown, so I'm from the southwestern province, Balochistan. That's already very low on the Human Development Index, even within Pakistan. And their people are mainly on agriculture. Their survival means agriculture. Even though the crop is ready, but they cannot transport that crop. And they have just this one income throughout the whole year. So if this critical time of next 2 weeks, if the lockdown is not lenient for those guys, they will have nothing else to eat. So government, in terms of even these critical decisions, they cannot impose a lockdown like China did, like US did. Countries like Pakistan and India have to think on very difficult and very different terms as well. The interest rate, for example, the government recently reduced the interest rates twice, not just once, from 13% to 12 something, and then now we are at 11%. In an ideal situation, changing interest rates so much would be catastrophic for a country. But we are not in an ideal situation. So countries like India and Pakistan have to take very difficult and very different decisions than the developed countries, for instance.
Right, so fairly put. And so I'm just thinking that, if these are the challenges we're facing, then there has to be some solution out there, right? I can understand that, yes, economically we're not very strong, but even then, what do you think, Sanjana, can be some of the innovative ways of tackling this situation for us?
So I think the problem right now is not just with the developing countries. If you look at US, they've had 2,000 deaths in a day. So all of us are in very, very difficult situation. And I think the way the governments can deal with this, because time is of the essence right now, is by having really open communications with the citizens, and also taking a multi-stakeholder approach, So to just give you an example here, in Karnataka, like the city which Bangalore, the state which Bangalore belongs to, we had a high court order where the court directed the state government to support the transgender and sex workers community. So that was a very good move, no doubt in that. But I am of the opinion that the state government should have taken the initiative and done it itself, right? So having a two-way communication with all stakeholders in the community is a very important thing right now. And also looking at society, or the nation as a whole, is also very important to address issues. And the third thing would be to implement evidence-based strategies, right? And also as a very important solution, when the governments are supporting economies to build back, they should ensure that enough emphasis and importance is given to equity, health, reduction in poverty, and then safety of environment as well. So this is the time where we can sort of come up with innovative solutions and then start putting them together. And also definitely taking back the learnings from this pandemic, and being prepared for future is something which will definitely help us. Look at South Korea, how they use their learnings from MERS, and then very quickly implemented for this very pandemic. So there were other countries like Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, which have been successful. So I think these are some of the strategies which governments need to use, and also give enough emphasis to youth and the amazing innovative solutions they come up with, and make them be part of the solution rather than just being people who watch silently. So I think these are some of the things which we can do.
That, because it really connects to my next question. I was just thinking about these countries and how they're taking learning. So on a very positive looking note, we see a lot of positive behavior generally happening, even at an individual level, how people around us are just doing ration drives, and some of them, or for instance in Pakistan, there's a SRS program that has been launched, and then huge amounts of money are being committed by the governments in both the countries, India and Pakistan, right now, to help the people who are suffering the most, the lower income strata. So I'm just wondering, Shivi, in your experience, how can data make these initiatives more effective and less prone to misuse? How can we ensure that these donors, these beneficiaries, are really the right ones that we need to reach out to?
That's a very relevant question, Makia, and I would say institutions have been facing this challenge for decades, not years. So to understand how and where data can help, I would like to delve deeper into obstacles faced to make these programs more effective. The first and the foremost and the biggest challenge, as you mentioned, is definitely identification of beneficiaries. The next comes financial inclusion. But the good part is that digital revolution can help us elevate the above two challenges. So, for example, in India, we have over 100 crore mobile phone users. We can use data here to map mobile phone numbers to national identification numbers. Now, how this works is using data technologies, we can query mobile network operators and map their mobile numbers to their national identification numbers. This helps us create a kind of digital identity for for 1.3 billion population, and that would be huge if we are able to achieve that. In India, the Jam Trinity Yojana, Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile Yojana, that's been working. That's a great working model, I would say, that has helped save India, significant amount of subsidy leakages. Not just India, according to Aspire database, which is a database maintained by World Bank, in 2018, social cash transfer programs accounted for over half of the social protection spending worldwide. So countries are realizing it and moving more and more towards adopting digital technologies and data science to target beneficiaries better. The effective implementation of social safety program schemes requires new digital tools to capture this data. Once the identification and selection of beneficiaries is done, there's a need of targeted and transparent delivery of funds. Now, to do it at a large scale in countries like India and Pakistan, with a high density of population, data science plays even a bigger role because our government resources are already stretched. And there are some technologies like text mining, like image processing, which can be used to automate at least a part of, and up to 100% of screening process for scanning documents, picking the right keywords from the documents, and help us pinpoint and make a list of target eligible beneficiaries. So that is one point where data can help us in identification. I would say the next part comes is in the next phase of using technology. Once the beneficiary identification is done, comes maintaining records of how much help has already been extended to those beneficiaries. So once we are able to collate that data using better tools that are coming in our lives every day, we can support better interinstitutional coordination. The point here is that we can leverage technology to make it easy for anyone to quickly find out what benefits they are eligible for, apply for them, and our next goal should be to reach 100% of the eligible beneficiaries with minimum leakages, create awareness among citizens about it, and make the redemption process as seamless as possible.
Thank you, Shivi. That was quite a lot of programs, all jumbled into one, still trying to get a hang of them. But in the meantime, Sikandar, I'd really like to hear from you about how do you feel that life has changed, given that we will be able to do all of these positive things. Things are changing, though slowly and gradually, but they'll change. But like when we look at our economic model, our financial systems, the way that organizations are working, do you think there'll be a major change after COVID finally ends?
Thank you, Makia. But before I go for that question, let me add on to what Shivi said regarding we already have something of this sort in Pakistan. So I am working along with Karachi Hub. We have formed Balochistan Youth Against Corona, BYAC, and currently we are serving in 32 districts in Balochistan. And what we do is once we serve to a specific household, we get their data, we get their national identification number, the computerized national identification number. And then at the end of the day, we submit that to the local district administration, that these are the lists that we have supplied monthly rations on our own donations. That's regardless of wherever you're coming from, whether you're part of the government or not. We submit them, so government tracks them and check and balance, keeps in check and balance that we do not give them rations again in the next week or so. So it divides the doubling of the number, as you mentioned. I believe we will see a very different world, of course, but then it's not just one word. So we have the pre-COVID-19 word, and we have this right now, the COVID-19 word. We do not know how long this will last. This could be a month, 2 months, or could be a year, God forbid. And then we're going to have the post-COVID-19 word. Economically, whether this be different or not, but politically, it will definitely be completely different, because we saw the rise of populism throughout different countries. Now this thing, the response from those authoritarian regime is giving more acceptance to the fact that maybe countries are better off on their own. So we might be heading towards maybe deglobalization instead of reglobalization, as to put it. For instance, if we look at the superpower, United States, they are suffering enormously, almost 2,000 deaths every day, let alone helping the other countries. China, for instance, has come forward, helping us in Pakistan, helping Nepal, helping Sri Lanka, even helping the United States. So politically and economically, we are going to see a very different world. It's too early to predict what kind of world that would be, but I hope that would be a world where we are connected based on the needs of general public masses rather than the top elite of any country.
Thank you so much, Sikandar, for those thoughts. And while I'm enjoying all of this a little too much, I'd also like to give some time to our audience. Our friends are really excited and I want to add, I think, a lot of thoughts to this. So before I ask you the last question, I'm going to open the floor for the next 10 minutes. And I'd really like people to raise their hands. As soon as you do so, I'm going to unmute you and you can add your thoughts. So just a small request, please try to wrap up your thoughts in a minute or so that more people get a chance to talk. So first of all, we have Rajesh. Over to you, Rajesh. You're muted. Can you please unmute yourself? Rajesh, we can hear the background noise now. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello, Rajesh. We can hear you.
How people working environment is going to change post COVID-19, because large number of people now from the home itself, they are all working. So there should be some change in the working environment, and by that way probably we can improve the pollutions and other things. So what is the panelist thinks about this?
Sure. So any of you wants to go ahead for that question?
Yeah. I think I would say that I'm completely correct in saying that these are the new realities of living. This problem, unlike that we were assuming is going to get solved in a few months, I don't see that happening, because as soon as China tried to reopen their economy and get back to a normal way of life, the previous normal, the cases started relapsing. And virologists and scientists have clearly said that unless there's a vaccine in place, this problem is going to stay with us. So the sooner we realize that these are the new realities of living and we start adapting ourselves to the new working environments, to the new ways, adopting digital technologies to keep the business going, the better it is for everyone. And even after the situation gets normal, I think businesses have now realized that a larger part of business can be managed by allowing employees to stay at home. That reduces travel time for employees in some segments of business, not all verticals. Like in manufacturing, definitely it's not possible to be to work from home. But wherever it is possible, businesses and policymakers are going to be cognizant of the fact that not all physical presence is necessary, not all travels are necessary. That is further going to reduce the pollution, the environment, So a lot of positive learnings from this situation as well. But again, like I said, we have to just be cognizant of the fact that this is the new reality.
All right. So I will now allow another person. So Haris wants to talk. So Haris, changing your. Uh, so I think you can speak now.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is Haris from Islamabad, Pakistan. And just to basically to present my question, just want to give you a little background. In Pakistan, there are a couple of ration drives are going on. Lots of NGOs are doing ration distribution. Recently, government initiated a project to facilitate struggling people with uh, financial support and stuff like that. So personally, I think that hunger issue will be sorted in maybe next 10 to 15 days. Government might be able to do something to address the hunger part. But when it comes to daily wages in Pakistan, I think more than 40 to 50% of the population is daily wager. And they have a family of roughly, average family size consists of 6 to 8 members, and they're living in a very small house. So for them, it's very difficult to basically ask them to stay in home. So what do you guys think that how can we do, what model can we develop to make sure that they stay inside and do something productive? Because they don't have technological literacy rate, they don't have anything, you can't teach them digital skills. We have to come up with something so that they stay inside their homes, because they might stay for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, but after 3 or 4 weeks it will be very difficult to ensure that. And I am basically working with police in Pakistan, and they are saying that they don't have the infrastructure to enforce and to give punishments or to basically arrest those people, because once the mutiny starts, people don't addressing the basically expectations, or don't, once the people start disobeying the law, so there's no mechanism for with police to basically ensure lockdown and stuff like that. So this is the whole question. It's the whole situation. I just wanted to just check with you guys that what do you have in mind.
Sure. Thank you, Haris. Sikandar, before you speak, I just saw a few hands raised, but I think you guys removed the mouse from the icon or something, so they're gone. If you can please just raise your hand again. Over to you, Sikandar.
Okay, Haris, brilliant question. I'm following your work. First of all, amazing work. Kudos to you and Islamabad Hub for taking such initiatives of going in the field even on these critical times. I believe first we have to understand the problems if daily wages are suffering. Yes, one is their earnings, but there are other problems as well. For instance, lack of awareness. In my village, a lot of people think that shaking hand with someone will not give them this virus at all. They are far more, their immune system is far more stronger than this tiny virus. So they have this thing in their mind, embedded in their mind. There's lack of awareness. Another major issue with these families is that they, once, God forbid, if they get sick, they do not have any means to get treatment. The medical expense here is too colossal for them. So for them to be even alive, I would say that they have to work. There's literally no other way. Government cannot provide food to everyone. They can provide maybe food to people, the daily wages in Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, the big cities, New Delhi and Bangalore. But if we talk about the smaller villages, the government does not have the machinery to provide them. So what we can do is we can find innovative models to work there. For instance, as I said, the major industries are mining, which the government is trying to open that industry. The another industry is agriculture. So what we can do is we can give them awareness that if you go to your fields, this is the amount of distance that you should have. These are the precautions that you should take, because keeping them locked in their houses, as Makia, you began with the same thought that we are privileged to be working from home. We're privileged to be having this conversation over Zoom, but majority of the people in our countries are not privileged at all. They do not have any means rather than to work, or else they beg. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Quickly adding to what Sikandar said, so even in Bangalore, what we realized was lacking majorly was content, like easy, accessible and understandable content in Kannada. You know, people can, in the local languages, we can say maintain social distance or follow social distancing, but what is social distancing? Like, how would like a daily wage laborer understand what is that? So I think it's very, very important as like shapers as well as the governments that we put out information in a way that it's very easily understandable, and then it is very widely spread and utilized well. So this is something which we can do. And another thing here in Bangalore is those particular regions which have a lot of people, and there could be possible movements, although this is like a very drastic step. They're trying to lock off the whole area itself and then provide all the relief material required within that area wherever they are. So we also have these issues in like Mumbai slums, where a lot of people live in a very small space. So we definitely have threats and risks there. If at all even one person gets affected in one of those areas, it's going to be very catastrophic. So like Sikandar mentioned, increasing awareness, making sure that if they cannot go back to work in any form, like taking care of their social security at least for 2-3 months now is something which is very important. And there have been it could be something like simple, who are the daily wage workers? These are people who are being provided by someone who has resources, right? So it could be maids, it could be people who wash your cars, like people like these. So if people who are called the haves in the society ensure that they keep them paid for this period, that is another thing which is going to help them a lot. So along with thinking they're out of jobs, it's also very important to think how haves can keep the have-nots alive and ensure their health, hygiene, and safety for now.
Okay, so the next question. So Tam, I'm going to allow you to talk now. Tam, can you please unmute yourself? Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Tamron. I'm from Durban, South Africa. I'm actually sixth generation Indian in South Africa. So it's so good to hear what you guys are doing. And I've been following you guys on social media. So well done to all the hubs for what you're doing. I know the Bangalore Hub, I think I took inspiration for that, translating it into local languages. And I spearheaded it within like South Africa. So we got it into about 6 different languages. So even though it was a small project, it translated across the globe. So thank you so much. The one thing that's come through, and the SA Shapers had a call as well, was that, we all saying everybody stay at home, stay at home, stay at home. But in a country like South Africa, where gender-based violence is really, really, really prevalent within the have and the have-not communities. So since lockdown, I stand to be corrected, but there's a gender-based helpline. There was about 8,000 calls that came through just during lockdown, and we're only on like day 14 or something. So I know that every hub, also I'm sure you've spoken about this, but we can support NGOs. That was a conclusion that we had. But are you guys doing anything, or have you seen anything related to gender-based violence during lockdown and during social distancing?
I'd like to add a little here. Very interesting thing that I've noticed recently. So I am one of the directors for Sehat Tahani, and our doctors are working and everything. And when you talk to a lot of female doctors, and then when you go to these hospitals and interact with them, you somehow find out that all of these doctors have been harassed at one occasion or the other. So I was talking to a few female friends of mine who are doctors in hospitals, big hospitals, and they're like, when patients come in, instead of treating us with respect, because we're literally putting our life on the line, they treat us with a lot of disrespect because they think that they're unable to deal with them because we're a female. So that's just a really sad thing. Would the panelists like to add something, please?
It's very sad.
Yeah, unfortunately, home is not a safe place for everyone. So that's really a very unfortunate and sad part of the society. And what I think is education, or I would say instilling emotional quotient in every individual through education, that helps. As a short-term solution, Tam, there have been cases of gender violence during lockdown in India as well. There are reports. And since this lockdown doesn't permit NGOs to reach out to the unfortunate victims, people are taking help of police. And I would really appreciate the work of police here. They have been extremely proactive in taking all sort of, in enforcing lockdown, in helping people to get their essential items, in solving these sort of issues. So that's the only resort in such times. So I would request you to try and reaching out to your local police authorities and seek their help.
I really hope that helps you, Dan. And I'm going to now allow Arti to talk. So, Arti, over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Aarti Leela Ram and I'm from Karachi Hub. Thank you so much for initiating this. I think this is, you stepping out, all of you right now, is one of the very important things that we need in our time. So I'll just be very quick. My question is mostly regarding to mental health and domestic violence that has severely increased in a lot of countries like Pakistan and India, especially the South Asian side. So I just want you, whoever is comfortable in commenting on who is particularly vulnerable at this time, and how we can reach out for any kind of support that we can from our own side. So of course, I understand that health professionals, or especially mental health experts, are trying their best to do stuff in research, to do various awareness campaigns regarding it. But in our own capacity, how can we support these kind of folks who are struggling with their well-being? Again, issues like domestic violence, toxic families, stuff like that. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Aarti, for your question. When you ask about individual actions towards such such unfortunate events, so New Delhi Hub has recently partnered with psychologists, and we have launched a mental health helpline. And the very first day we launched this helpline number, we got over 100 calls in the first hour. So in the very first hour, and then after people got to know more about it, by the end of the day we had 1,000+ calls. So that's the scale of anxiety that this pandemic has caused amongst all of us. We just need to realize and understand that we are in it together. There's no other way to escape it from it. So we need to talk more to our family members, our friends, our doctors, and think about not feel anxious about getting the disease, but rather think of ways to, what if me or any other member, my close family member gets exposed to the disease, how well are we prepared? We are currently talking about how much is the government prepared, but at individual level, have we given a thought of how much are we prepared? Layoffs are happening in companies. A lot of people have their health insurance packages tied up with their companies. Have we given a thought, what if in these kind of situations, if the layoffs happen, do we have individual insurance covers? So instead of feeling anxious, if we talk to people around, if we think of how to make ourselves secure, that's really going to help.
I really hope, Arti, that kind of answers your question. And over to the last question that I will take. So Tariq raised his hand, but I think he's dropped out. So I would just like to leave all the panelists with the last minute question. Any advice that you'd like to give the audience in like a single, Tariq is back. Let me just get his question. That's the last question we'll take for the day. Tariq, over to you, and you are muted.
Makaya, thank you very much, and thank you everybody. You guys are doing a great job. When I was joining this meeting, I have been asked a couple of questions. There were some options that what should be the next option for another session of this meeting. Actually, I want to just point out the role of media, especially in Pakistan, as I am not, I don't have access to the Indian media or other foreign media, but in Pakistan, the role of media was very negative throughout in this scenario so far, currently. and the distrust between the government data and the community is very large. So I will request that if you want to continue this discussion in next sessions, please kindly highlight the role of the media and the role of the ISOC in this, how to deal with the media. Because if you look at the social media, we have a very diverse type of discussion going on there, and people have been cornering some uh, ethnic groups, that the spread is because of, so we are actually in a sort of a blame game within the country. So this is because all of this negative reporting of media. I would like you guys, if you kindly accept this suggestion and have a session on the negative role of the media. Just like in the beginning, the media was crying and bringing the parents of the students in China that government is not taking action to bring these students back to Pakistan. And when they did that, and when they did brought some foreigners from Iran and some from Saudi and other foreign countries, they start blaming the government that they didn't took proper countermeasures. So this is very, I mean, a double standard of media, and it's playing its role very badly and affecting the community mind very badly. So people are in a complete distrust. They are not sure what is happening. Is it really a pandemic, or it is just a media hype and governments are doing something behind this? It's kind of a propaganda or something. So there is still not a clarity in the mind of the community. So my suggestion is, if you are really going to continue this discussion in more sessions, and there is any other option slot available, so kindly uh, add the negative role of the media in that slot too.
Sure. Thank you so much, Tariq, for that very interesting thought, and we will definitely take that into account. On that note, I will move on towards wrapping up the session since we just have a couple of more minutes to go. I would really like to request the panelists if they have any last minute thoughts that they'd like to quickly add.
Sure, Makia. I think, like Shivi mentioned, we need to remember that we all are in this together, and dealing with this together is the only way out of this. So that is one thing, and I really hope that we come out of this with a very renewed sense of shared humanity. That's something which I'm really looking forward to.
Thank you, Makia. I believe that we have to see the silver lining even in these negative times. And starting this COVID-19 Indo-Pak seminar was also along the same lines as well, that to get the discussion rolling with our neighbors. It's perfectly right that we have to talk to each other. We have to talk to our families, we have to talk to our friends, we have to talk to our hubs and shapers around the world as well. We are all, for instance, Haris from Islamabad Hub is always on the field. There are so many other shapers as well who are always in the field. So we have to keep constantly checking with these guys as well. How are they feeling? Are they all right? Are their families good? Are we all okay? So this is definitely one thing that we should keep in mind, just to talk to each other.
Shivi, any last thoughts?
Thank you so much, everyone. My request to all listeners and viewers through this is, let's see this pandemic beyond politics, beyond religion. It's very, unfortunate to see comments on social media, on different channels about criticizing government for not doing a particular thing, for supporting a particular group. Let's accept the fact that the situation is beyond all discrimination. So we need to target the right hotspots, do testing there first. We need to ensure that our medical, the frontline workers, they get all facilities. As our role at individual level, let's make sure that we follow lockdown. People in this lockdown and this is still the situation. They're treating this lockdown period as as a summer holiday, meeting neighbors during evenings. So let's accept the fact this is not a summer holiday. This is a very critical situation. Let's play our bit, and this is the least we can do, staying at home. So let's just do this and avoid any misinformation spread. Let's all, just resolve that unless information is verified, let's not spread that information, any false stories on media. If everyone plays their role together, we will get over the situation, and all the countries, the humanity is facing the situation, and we all will come out with a solution, but only with everyone's cooperation.
Thank you so much, all of you. I want to apologize to all the people I couldn't really put on unmute, and I know there are a couple of other questions, but we're really sorry we can't answer them today. But then thank you so much for joining us. We're really glad that we were able to hear all of your insights and thoughts. And I'm just a little hopeful. I'm an optimist, by the way. So I hope that, this helps me introspect a lot about the situation in Pakistan and India, and how both the countries remain in a state of tense relationships. And yet, look at our realities. They're not really that different. And for me, such sessions always serve as a reminder that, the colors of our passports are different. The tunes of our anthems are different. But hey, our plights, our hope, it all remains the same. So on that way, my friends, I would like to bring today's session to an end. We'll be sharing a recording of the session on social media channels as well. We'd love to hear your feedback, any insights you have, any topics you'd like to share next time. And so I hope you've enjoyed yourself, and we will see you next Saturday, same time. Goodbye from Delhi Hub, from Bangalore Hub, the Islamabad Hub, and the Karachi Hub. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.